Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, or whatever time of the day it is, wherever you are. This is going to be a bit of a rambling video, as I'm just going to talk while I work on this old 52 Fender Champion 600. We're going to change out the speaker. But I wanted to talk about the channel and welcome many new viewers to the channel. In the last few months, especially the last month, the number of viewers and subscribers has gone up dramatically, for which I am very grateful. It really means a lot to me. Which means that a lot of you who've been with me from the beginning know all of my quirks and what to expect. And some others saw one video that they liked, they subscribed, they're checking it out to see what it's about. They might find some other videos they like, but they don't know me from Adam or anything about my approach to things, etc., etc. I've been giving opinions on amps. Well, who the hell is this guy giving opinions on amps? There's a lot of people out there giving internet opinions. Based on what? With sometimes questionable motives, sometimes questionable levels of experience. Putting the chassis safely to the side. I have been repairing amps professionally for about 20 years. I've been repairing amps for more than 30. I used to make pedals until the manufacturing side of things, with things fleeing overseas and US companies making the bits and pieces I needed, no longer doing such things. So I see a few hundred amps a year. I also design amps. I restore vintage amps. I'm not some guy in the back with some Radio Shack soldering equipment and looking how to do things on the internet. I play and restore and fix everything from the desert island amps out there that we're all trained from guitar playing birth to worship and want, to blues juniors and bugueras and all the little stuff that makes the daily working musician's life go round. As a result of all that, I have a real good sense of what amplifiers, including the vintage ones that we're all supposed to want, actually sound like. And I know what the run-of-the-mill everyday amps sound like. I know how they fail, the expensive ones and the cheap ones. I know what the failure modes are. I know why they fail, how to prevent them from failing in the future. And I, from some perspectives, maybe have a jaded view of things, in that it takes a lot to impress me. At the same time, I judge and evaluate amps based on how they perform and last at their price point. I don't expect a Blues Junior to sound like a 64 Twin. So when I give an opinion on an amp, it's both how it's built and what it sounds like, which are critical things, and I do know these things very well. I see all the ways things go wrong. And what a great amp really sounds like. And by that, I don't mean how to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan for $300, et cetera, et cetera. I see a lot of nonsensical videos out on the internet. So when I say this amp sounds good, I'm comparing it to other amps that truly sound good. This is tricky because these screws are loose in this baffle. To support it from the other side without breaking the grill cloth, which is some kind of weird fabric that's similar to the original fabric, but it's also, I don't think it's original, it would be faded, but it's very much smoking jacket, supper club kind of thing. When I give an opinion on how an amp sounds, it's because I've actually heard the amps that are being modeled. So if someone says this sounds like a Plexi, I'm always suspect, because what do you mean by a Plexi? Do you mean a JTM 45, Black Flag? Do you mean a 100 watt? Do you mean a 50 watt? Do you mean a bass, a lead? Lots of terminology being thrown around loosely. This sounds like a Bassman. Well, which Bassman? There have been many, many models of Fender amps sold as Bassmans. So when I talk about amps under a certain price point, which probably led a lot of the new subscribers here, it's not me expressing what I want the world to sound like or the things I think people should play. But I want you to know, if an amp's not on that list, it's often for a very good reason. I'll shame a few, like the Marshall Origin series. People have said, why didn't you include the Marshall Origin? I don't have time to do a list of all the amps out there that suck or are unreliable. As they come onto the bench and they get their individual videos, that will happen. You'll see that. But no, the Origin is not very well built. The 20, at least, which I have experience of, sounds pretty dreadful. And I'm not the only tech who feels that way. Headfirst Amplification has been overhauling them a lot and getting a lot of positive support for that. And he seems to know what he's talking about. I think it's a questionable investment to upgrade a Marshall Origin 20. Maybe the 50 is better. I've heard that the 50 sounds better. I'll put this old fragile baffle to the side for a minute. I want to get some weird stuff out of the cabinet. So no, there are amps which I did not include on that list, very much intentionally. The Origin 20 is not well built. The Origin 50 is not well built. I suspect that, in all modesty, those who think that the Origin 50 sounds great have not played a lot of truly great sounding Marshalls. And I know that makes me sound like an amp snob, blah, 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 blah. I've got to call them as I see them. I'm not here to pretend to be just some average Joe. In all honesty, in every other aspect of life, I probably am an average Joe. In this one field of amp repair and amp design, I'm not an average Joe. I have to be honest about that. Stay humble about it, but I know an awful lot about this. There are guys who know more about this than I do, though I'm catching up with them. And I'll tell you a secret. I talk to those guys. I'm friends with those guys. And they don't ever respond to my videos saying, well, actually, blah, 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 blah. They pretty much agree. Because when I express an opinion about how something is built, it's more than an opinion. It is an objective observation. These are not things like, well, I don't like it because it's green. No, I don't like it because it catches on fire and a musician who bought it wastes their money. Someone put this double-sided foam tape in here to give some vibration support prevention between the baffle and the cab. And I thought I'd peel it out, but it doesn't want to peel out. I might try a heat gun on that and see if it comes out. I don't want the old Tolex to lift. I've got some much better dampening material than that I might use. I don't think it originally had any. Might have had some felt. I'm going to pause this here so you don't have a horrible sound, and I'm going to heat up one corner with the heat gun and see if that adhesive pulls loose. Well, it's not. It's really not wanting to come loose. If this were an otherwise collectible condition 52 Champion, and the owner had a larger budget than I know he has, I would get in here and find a way to get this stuff out. But I think it's going to be all right as is. I just wanted to look at it and see. At least the parts that were sticking out are gone. It won't look quite so ugly from the rear. So let's go back to the baffle and the speaker. Well, I get that set up. I just want to say, I really am trying to be modest, and it's not coming from a how dare you disagree with me on the internet. God forbid someone disagrees with someone else on the internet. I try to have a sense of humor about it, and I know that people won't always like everything that I do. I think it's funny when people dislike a video of mine because they dislike the subject. They may dislike an amp, so if I fix said amp, they dislike the video. I do think it's kind of absurd that some people have disliked that video I put up the other day of one for my wife. Unless you're my wife, it very specifically was not for you. It was just me playing a little thing on the keyboard that would make her smile. So if you go around YouTube disliking videos like that, man, look in the mirror. You need to get a hobby. All right. New speaker coming out of the box. And this is a 52 Fender Champion 600. Originally would have had that little 6.5 inch 4 ohm Alnico, but someone had already enlarged the holes. You can see where the original mounting holes were in the baffle to take an 8-inch speaker. And they did not do a particularly good job of it, but I think I can make this work. The new speaker is this Warehouse G8C. It's 4 ohms. It's 20 watts. It is ceramic because of the client's budget. Alnico continues to cost quite a bit more than ceramic. We get these to line up. I only have one shot without pushing through the weird cloth on the other side. Though I suspect I could probably go to a thrift store and find a really ugly 70s pimp getup and replicate this. It's held on with nails. That's kind of cool. I've got the old mounting hardware here. I don't entirely trust it. I think these are number 6 screws. Let me double check that. I've got some Keps nuts and I've got some washers. Let me check my stash real fast. They are number 8s. And what threw me off was that the old nuts had 5/16 inch, took a 5/16 inch socket on the old nuts. And that's usually the size of nut that corresponds to a number 6 screw. But in this case, it was a small nut that took a number 8. Line this one up and start it by hand. So I've got some new number 8 washers and some number 8 Keps nuts. And I don't want to cross thread it because then the whole thing will spin crazy. Looking at the threads, they've had a little bit of abuse over the years. There's some little deformations. If I can get it to the good threads, we'll be all right. But because it's not actually secured in the baffle from the other side, unless I take the grill cloth off and use a screwdriver, this may be difficult to get enough torque because all I can do is push up from the other side. All right, we got lucky on that one. So I'm gonna do the finger tight, rotate it around, do another one. Anyway, I know this has been rambling, and it's not me, but I do want you to know, that I am not a fanboy of amps, and I'm not a hater. If someone brings me their amp, I don't say that's crappy because it's not X, Y, or Z. I treat it as their amplifier, which is in a way, it's a musical instrument. It's their means of expression. And to the guy who can only afford a Blues Junior, I want him to have that amp going forward. And I try to make it the amp that Fender should have made to begin with. For someone who has a 76 Marshall, true, I will do more work on that because the amp justifies it. But I approach the very valuable amp the same way I approach the everyday amp that someone has, because again, it's someone's pride and joy. And, it's their means of expression, and that really means a lot to me. I came into this as an English major, and I wanted to be a songwriter and a producer. So all those things, such as feelings and creativity and finding joy in life, have real meaning to me. And if you don't like that, feel free to get your own YouTube channel. To the guys who criticize the amps under a $500 video because I did not include this or that, or how dare I show used amps available under $500, or amps that have more than 1 watt. A lot of us can't use real amps. We've got to use 1 watt stuff. I can't please everyone. If I tried to do an all-inclusive list, it'd be 3 hours long and no one would watch it and no one would learn anything from it. More importantly, I'm really sorry. Do you want your free back? I mean, come on, I can't cater to everyone. All right, so this baffle now has a well-secured speaker. Now we've got to reattach the speaker to the cabinet. So let me put this carefully to the side and see, are these number 8s or number 6s here? I think these are going to be number 6s. But again, I want to change the hardware because that old stuff is yucky. So here's some number 6 washers. I've got bags of stuff. So number 6 Keps in a different bag. We'll confirm that that is the correct size. It is. All right, so I'll get 4 of these out. I'm going to take a look at these screws. All right, these are the screws. Let me focus on this. The Fender used, and they're purely decorative at that end. So I can't use a screwdriver. I just got to push it from the other side until it catches. And that's always fun. I do want to say that I'm very grateful to all the people who subscribe and like and view and express interests, and those who comment. I cannot reply to every comment. I don't have time. I'm sorry. As the channel continues to grow, I'm afraid I'll be less able to reply to every comment. And I apologize about that. I would love to reply to everyone. Maybe in the future, I'll get set up to do live stream Q&As and such. I see them on other channels, and it could be a good idea. I'm not going to do Patreons and paid questions and all that nonsense. I am not primarily a YouTube channel. I am an app tech who tries to share interesting things and useful things with guitarists. A note on that, I get a lot of questions. Hey, can you show us how to do this or that or the other? I'm not here primarily to train other techs. I'm here to translate the technology to the musician. So while techs can learn a lot from these videos, and I'll be glad to explain certain concepts as they are relevant, My focus is not and will never be on here's how to be a tech. If you want to know a lot of the basic questions, there are literally books on the subject. You should read them. I have. If that strikes you as arrogant or elitist, it's not arrogant. Talk to a doctor if you want arrogance. I know what I have learned. I know how much work I've put into this to get to a certain point. So I'm not arrogant, but I am proud of the work I do, and I hold myself to really high standards. It is, however, elitist in the true sense of the word, by which I mean that electronics and amp repair, specifically the musical industry variations, still have a very guild-like structure, in that there are apprentices, there are journeymen, and there are the true masters. In some company, I would be considered a master. I consider myself a journeyman. I know the masters, and I know the things that they know that I have not yet learned. And I'm not talking about the guys on other YouTube channels. I'm talking about some guys whose hourly rate none of us could afford, but you recognize some of their names on the front of amps. I'll call out John Sir as an example. Sir John, sorry about hitting the camera, really knows his stuff. And back when he was in the trenches, as I am now, he saw the kinds of things I see, but he also got to the point where he didn't have to deal with blues juniors, and he was able to focus on just the really great stuff. Now, this screw of the 4 is not one to go in all the way. So let me see if there's an obstruction in the threads, because I don't have any way to attach a screwdriver at the other side. So John's a true master. And I'm sure if you asked him, he'd probably point to someone else as being the true master. Yeah, there's some corrosion here. I need to see if I can get off with a razor or something. But, John is still learning. I can say that. He's learning all the time. I had a conversation with him a couple weeks back. We're talking about some stuff that we'd encountered that was kind of strange and mysterious, but I won't share private conversations in this video. So everyone's learning. Anyone who's any good is still learning. So I'm not presenting myself as the end-all, be-all. I don't present myself as an amp guru. I am, in all modesty, very, very good, and I try always to be better. And for those of you looking at this and saying, he didn't do that or this or that on this 52 Fender, like I said, I'm working to a budget and trying to get the best results without making anything worse, so that the musician will have his gigging amp back, primarily harmonica through this. It will also sound quite nice for guitar when I'm done. Some really yucky stuff off these threads. I think this is going to have to go for a soak in some WD-40 or naphtha. It's brass, so I'm going to look up brass reaction naphtha, because I don't know. So I'm going to pause this video here and do that. And then we'll put this back together and I'll wire this up, and I need to shorten the cable just a little bit. I left myself some slack while I was working on the amp, but now it's almost buttoned up, I can shorten that. So I'll let you hear this in a second video, but I just wanted to talk about the channel and what to expect from it. And if you don't like the things I said, that's fine. Watch someone else, watch something else. If you want opinions based on experience and some subjective opinions, I'll tell you when I have a subjective opinion, If you want to see the insides of these things and how they fail and why they fail and what to do to stop it, or you like cool old vintage amps, because I feature a lot of them as they come in and as they go out, you might like this channel. You might like the amps but hate me. So be it. But, I cannot please everyone. If I try, I will end up being a YouTube basket case, and I have no interest in that. One other thing I meant to say, and I got distracted by the work in front of me. I don't get amps in to make videos. I'm not buying amps to put in videos. People aren't sending me amps for free to put in videos. There are a lot of gear review channels where the gear comes in specifically for the purpose of the video. Unless I say otherwise, and it has not happened yet, every amp that gets featured on the channel is a customer's amp in for repair or service or something. I don't get paid to do the reviews. I get paid to fix the amps, and that turns into reviews. So just wanted you to know my motivation. I am not a YouTube channel that has amps. I am an amp guy that has YouTube videos. And that can make for a sizable difference in approach and the kinds of content, I hate saying content, that you get. But I wish when I was a gigging musician and did not know all this stuff about amps, that I had had access to information like this, because it did not exist in the magazines in the 80s and 90s. Not at all.